In the midst of social distancing and business lockdowns, a freelance writer and a graphic artist bought a bus, converted it into a tiny home on wheels, and moved out of our 4-bedroom house. 1 year later, we downsized to a Chevy Express. Now we travel between Texas and Pennsylvania from April through November while exploring small towns with rich histories. In the winter, we hunker down in Texas in our schoolie and dream of our next big trip.
We're Alan and Teresa.
And we're rolling with our gnomies. Well, good afternoon. We are in Greenville, Texas. And we're excited about walking the walking tour here. We're going to start at the train depot, walk down the street. There's some really cool things here we've already just kind of got a glimpse of. So we're going to find out a little bit about the history of Greenville, some cultural and historical things that have taken place here. And we're looking forward to you joining us, so come along.
You know YouTubers hate that, right?
You hate that, don't you?
Okay.
So we're standing here in front of the historic train depot in Greenville, Texas. This was the very first rail line in Hunt County here in Texas. It was right here in Greenville, and it's called the Katy, K-A-T-Y, Missouri, Kansas, and Texas Railway. And it came here from Denison. First train, October 1st, 1880. They gave a $5,000 cash bonus. I guess to the conductor, I don't know, somebody. A bunch of the men in town got together and raised up the money, I guess. They just, hey, welcome to Greenville, here's your money. That's all I know about it. Anyway, they went from here to Mineola, and we know about Mineola. What's famous about Mineola?
I don't remember, but the link is up here somewhere. Go watch that video.
Yeah. Anyways, there's some cool things in Mineola. I think it was an oil town, and
oh yeah, something like that.
Other things, and well, they had a train depot. One of the early trains went through Mineola.
Yes.
And the railway created a little boom town. So if you had a railroad station or a depot in your town in those days, early 20th, late 19th century, then your town grew. And that's what happened in Mineola, what happened here in Greenville.
But the depot is now a Christian school.
Yeah, usually they put museums and things in these old depots.
This one's a Christian school. Which is an interesting use for it. Hold on, let's go over here and see what we got. A very good use. Hey, I don't think you're supposed to be back there. I'm sure it is private property, dude.
Alright, so we're standing in front of the old Greenville post office. It was built in 1847, but there's an old tradition that says before that, the mail came from Jefferson, Texas, and was dropped off at a saloon here in Greenville.
Jefferson is 2 hours east.
Well, it went through Jefferson and then came to Greenville, and they gave it to the saloon guy.
Okay, then.
Hey, I wonder if they gave him a drink. Hey, here's your drink. Think it was on the house?
Probably.
So, anyways, they occupied rented quarters here until 1910. In other words, they rented the building. That's when the structure was built. I guess they
there was another structure here.
Tent or something. I don't know. So
when this structure was built,
yeah,
there was one here before that.
That's probably a pitch-up tent.
It was a saloon.
Audie Murphy joined the Army in this building on June 20th, 1942.
His 18th birthday.
On his 18th birthday. Welcome to manhood. You're going to war. Later, he was the most decorated soldier in World War II, in case you didn't know that. If you didn't pay attention in history, you just learned something.
Or you can go back and look at our Farmersville video.
Yeah.
We talked about him in that one.
We do talk about him in the
That was last week.
So, the city of Greenville bought this building in 1973, and I guess they vacated the premises.
Nah, there's still somebody in there. There's a tree in there.
Oh, I think they just planted it and left it.
I don't think so. Are you crazy? Okay, I can get most of him.
So this is the Be Seen monument here in Greenville. It's dedicated to everyone who's afraid to put themselves out there and take a chance. Like me.
Oh my, put your hat back on your hair.
Well, as an old newspaper guy, I'm really fascinated by history of newspapers and how, they develop and all that. Well, this is the Greenville Herald Banner building. It started out as the Greenville Herald in 1869, and it's the oldest business in Hunt County. That's pretty cool. Later, it was sold in 1890, and then it was sold again in 1914 to a local family, and they owned it until 1956. Later on, it was bought by the Hart Hanks Corporation, which they own a lot of newspapers in the country, and it's still going. Now it's called the Herald Banner because they merged with another paper called the Banner. So now it's the Greenville Herald Banner. Pretty fascinating. Newspapers are a dying breed in this country, thanks to the internet, but I'm not crying because there's a lot of publishing going on. All right, this site right here, 2900 Lee Street, is the site of the state's second oldest savings institution. It's the Greenville Building and Loan Association. However, they have moved out. Now it is a law office on the left, and on the right, it looks like it's empty.
No, it's
the something agency, the Gladden Agency. So I don't know what they do.
It's an attorney.
It's probably it's probably a law.
See the scales of justice?
On this side?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
yeah.
That's the door, second door to this building?
No.
This side?
This side is also an attorney's office.
Three different businesses or two?
Looks like three.
Because that one says Gladden Agency and that one says something else.
Right.
All right, so what we got here is, it says in 1912, anyone with 5 cents could ride the trolley to Graham Park for a dance, a concert, or a visit to the zoo. So I'm guessing this was Graham Park.
Yeah, it looks like it might have been.
And the trolley came by here evidently.
Yeah.
So there's across the street. There's a marker. We're going to go over and check that out. Well, the Confederates grew up an army of a couple of hundred folks and went and attacked the guy in Arkansas. His name was Hart, and defeated him there and hung him from a tree. And then came back to Hunt County. And so after the war, everything got back to normal. Lieutenant Cameron picked up his post as the county clerk, and life went on as normal. Of course, the Unionists were still Unionists, the Confederates were still Confederates, so there was still a lot of conflict going on because of the war, even afterwards.
Now, Cameron came back and resumed his post as county clerk and operated an opera house. But Hart's brother, Hart, the guy that they hung in Arkansas,
yeah.
Hart's brother served as a district judge during Reconstruction.
So you can bet there was some bitter blood there, but hey, history is really interesting, folks. That's why we do this.
It is. That's interesting, a lot. Okay.
So this was the site of the King Opera House. The building burned down in the early 1900s. They demolished it, and then the movie theater showed up. National celebrities performed on stage at the Opera House before the movies came to town, and then of course in the 20th century movies became the rage, and it looks like the Texan is still standing. So after the railroads opened up, bringing people into town and taking people out, the local economy depended a lot on cotton. And so this building here, probably
This one right here.
before this was built, was probably a cotton patch. Across the street, sharecroppers planted and picked cotton and shared the profit with landowners. So there was a cotton patch there, and I'm guessing it's probably here on this side of the street as well.
Right.
So we're looking at a landmark building here in town. In 1900, approximately when these buildings were built, Greenville was the largest city in the area. So I would imagine it would be larger than, it would have been larger than Terrell and any of the surrounding cities here in the next probably county or two around it. So we're just east of Dallas, about what, hour and a half?
Thereabouts.
And so you can imagine Greenville being the largest city in the area at that time. Who knows, maybe 1,000, 1,500 people at the time, maybe?
Maybe.
You know, the cities weren't that large, but
Beautiful buildings,
yeah, these
though.
are nice buildings. So I love the face of these buildings here. This was established in 1839, and you can see each of these buildings were probably built along the same time. And it's got crests up there above the winery.
There's a Crest building in a lot of
It was
towns.
a big company back in those days. At that location where that building now stands was the dedication ceremony for the 1929 courthouse, which we're going to see here in just a second. It included a living statuary. The statues reappeared for the county's 150th anniversary celebration. And right behind us here is the courthouse. So that's a really nice courthouse. This was built in 1929. It's the 7th courthouse in Hunt County. And we'll cross the street again here in a second and read about the other 6. But this one was built in 1929.
It's a beautiful courthouse.
It is. It's not the most beautiful we've seen, but it is a nice. I like the clock over the door there.
For as plain as it is, it's a beautiful courthouse.
Yeah, I like the columns. There's some pretty fine architecture there.
It is. Okay, let's go.
Sorry about the cloudiness. We thought the rain was going to be over by now, but it's evidently not. Hunt County was founded in 1846, and Greenville was chosen as the county seat. So they built the first courthouse here, but the court sessions initially were under the oak trees at the corner of St. John and Borland Streets. The first courthouse was built in 1847, and it was a log cabin located on the west side of the square. The second courthouse was built in 1853. It was a 2-story framed courthouse on the northwest corner. In the center of the square, which had been reserved for a more substantial building, it was used in 1858 for the third courthouse, the first brick structure in the county. It was condemned in 1874, and county offices moved to a building at 2610 Lee Street, purchased from the Methodist Episcopal Church south. The fifth courthouse was an ornate red brick building with white stone trim and constructed here in 1883. 13 months later, it was destroyed by fire, heavily damaged the town's commercial district. The new courthouse closely resembled that structure and was built in 1885. In 1928, it was torn down to make room for construction of the present courthouse. And we'll go over here a little bit and learn more.
Oh, Lord. Okay, then. You better be quick, buddy.
Yeah. So it was designed by somebody named Ragsdale and Sons.
The 1920... This courthouse, the 1929 one.
1929 courthouse. It's a 6-story building depicting a transition from classical revival to Art Deco architecture. It features solid masonry construction, stone steps leading to triple-arched doorways at the main entrance, a decorative terracotta detailing and metal sash windows. It's still the county seat. All right, so before the advent of electricity, street lights in downtown Greenville were burned oil. They had a lamp lighter who went around filling oil reservoirs and lighting the lamps. And they raised and lowered a rope. In those days, hitching your horse to a lamp post brought you a big old fine.
Yeah.
Now in 1891, Greenville's first power plant began generating electricity. It was the first municipal-owned electric company in the state of Texas at the time that generated its own electricity. The tiny town branch plant had just 2 steam-powered dynamos that produced electricity for 40 street lights and 1,000 homes. It was operated by the city, and yet first municipally owned electric utility in Texas.
Okay, wait. It provided electricity for 1,000 homes. What was the population of Greenville?
In 1891, I don't know. In 1900, I found out it was 8,500 people.
Okay.
So it probably wasn't that big in 1891,
But
it was probably more than, well, you know, if you figure if there were 5,000 people, there could have been 1,000 homes.
Right.
You know, who knows?
Y'all, I'm sorry about the raindrops. Every time I put the umbrella down, it starts raining again.
And so, here's the Masonic Lodge here in Greenville. We don't have any history on it, but you can tell it's a Masonic Lodge. There's a big old...
Well, it says it on the bottom.
right there. Cool thing is, the building right next to it, it's probably just as old. On the side of it, there's a fading advertisement to
Right.
the local electric cooperative.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Masonic Lodge is beautiful, though. And evidently it is for sale or something, because there's a sign down there that says for information, call this number.
I'm not calling it.
I'm not calling it.
All right, the first Christian church was organized in 1879. It was led by a minister from Alabama, and they first met in a Union church on Lee Street. And the name was changed to Central Christian Church when the present sanctuary was built in 1898. It's the oldest church structure remaining in Greenville. It cost $23,000 to build. And of course, you can see the Gothic Revival style of architecture with stained glass windows and these beautiful arching towers and grill-like brickwork. It's really a gorgeous church building.
Okay. You done?
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. If I don't do this right, then I'm going to be on the bad side of my wife. So y'all bear with me and pray for me. But while you're doing that, don't forget, share us with your friends. Like us if you like us if you don't. Subscribe to the channel. It helps us out. God bless.